Hello everyone and welcome back to this video. Today we have the vintage 2-stroke machine with us, the Yamaha RX-135. So let's check it out. So the heart of this bike happens to be a 2-stroke 132cc single-cylinder engine that produces 12 horsepower and 10 Nm of torque. And I definitely have to say that this bike feels very punchy to drive and the low-end performance is simply extraordinary. This bike was first launched at 1997 and was mated to a 4-speed transmission, but on later 2000, Yamaha offered a 5-speed transmission too and continued selling it till 2003. But sadly, due to the emission norms, this 2-stroke engine were banned in India and Yamaha discontinued this iconic 2-stroke machine. But still, this bike has a huge fan base in India and also a very big value in the used market. But people who own this bike would never have a thought to sell this RX, and that's how much people love this bike, and this bike has a huge demand in the used market even though it has been 20 years since the launch of this bike. This bike has just a 132cc engine, but the power to weight ratio is so high and offers amazing performance. Also, this bike can do speeds of around 120 km/h without any issue, and the pulling power is very clean and linear. And one thing is to be noted that this bike weighs just 116 kilos, which is very light and feels easy to drive in city traffic conditions. And also, this bike is best suited for all types of riders and feels feather soft to handle, which makes it easier to maneuver and manipulate in city traffic conditions. The owner of this bike hasn't altered or modified anything, so it remains as in the same stock condition of how it was when it is launched. So hats off to this owner for maintaining this bike in the same condition as how it was when it is launched. In terms of performance of this RX-135, no other bikes in this segment can match it, and this bike simply had the raw feel and punchiness of the 2-stroke engine. And also, this bike was ruling on the late 90s and had a huge number of fans for this machine. And one main factor which everyone likes on this bike is its exhaust note. This bike has a unique note of a 2-stroke engine which gathered everyone's attention. In fact, our cool captain Mahendra Singh Dhoni's favorite bike happens to be this Yamaha RX-135 and also given the nickname as Pocket Rocket. The braking performance is actually really good even though this bike gets only drum brakes on both front and back wheels, and the suspension is on the softer side, which improves the comfort and smoothness of the ride quality. So the looks of this vintage 2-stroke machine feels more of like a retro classic style, and even though it has been 20 years since this bike has been launched, it doesn't feel outdated and looks very attractive, and it is definitely a hit turner. So the engine of this bike happens to be a 132cc single-cylinder 2-stroke engine. It produces 12 horsepower and 10 Nm of torque. And this bike gets 130mm drum brakes at the front and same 130mm drum brakes at the rear. And both front and back tires happens to be 18-inch wheels, spoke design rims. Let's hear the exhaust note of this bike. The instrument cluster looks very basic, just gets a speedometer and an odometer, and the light for the indicators, neutral and high beam are placed on the side. And this bike is actually in mint condition as it has done only 55,000 kilometers in 20 years. The capacity of the fuel tank happens to be 10.6 liters, and while comparing it with the other bikes of the segment of during those golden days, it is pretty decently sized. Coming to the suspension, this bike gets oil-damped telescopic forks at the front and oil-damped swing-arm coil springs with 5-step adjustable positions at the rear. The headlamps are just normal halogen setup at the front, and taillights happens to be just bulb setup. Still, there are LED headlamps and taillights available in the outside market, but as said before, the owner of this bike didn't want to change anything, so he maintained in the factory stock condition. The seat height happens to be 765 mm, which is suitable for both short and tall passengers. The overall length of this bike happens to be 1965 mm and width of 740 mm and height of 1040 mm. So in terms of dimensions, this bike is actually very compact and makes it easy to drive in city traffic conditions. The ground clearance of this bike happens to be 136 mm and the wheelbase is 1245 mm. So you don't have to worry about the speed breakers of our Indian roads. In terms of fuel efficiency, this bike returns on a mileage of 30 to 35 km per liter and 40 km per liter on highways. And at the time of launch, this bike has been offered with 3 color options, which includes a gold black color, candy maroon and a Rivera green color. Back in those days, this bike had an on-road price of around 40,000 rupees. But in today's used market, a good condition RX135 would cost you around 1.2 lakh rupees. And this bike, the one we are currently driving, is a first order bike and has been maintained so well like how it was in the factory condition. But still it is actually very difficult to find this bike in a very good condition, and most of them who own it would never sell this bike. So this bike is definitely an iconic vintage 2-stroke machine and a very valuable collectible. So that's all everyone. If you like this video, you know what to do. Please like, share, comment and subscribe. See you guys in the next video.